without further ado, we'll begin a kind of a free-form conversation anchored by a few slides that we've prepared together with the artist team. And the first question I have for Tuan is...
Please go easy. let's ease into it, Jia Yun.
Okay. Okay, then I'll just start with my general observation of the film, which leads gently to a question, which is that, Tuan, this film is prismatic. It reaches into so many dimensions around belief, family, recovery, and kind of rehabilitation. And at the center of it all for me, what seems to be the kind of central driving narrative is about Nhiet's kind of struggle sometimes against her own skepticism. So I wanted to ask, just for the audiences as well, how did you build this film and how did you build this narrative?
Okay, thank you. The film is actually a collage of many stories and many characters that we've met or read about along the way in our research. I really think of the film as a collage because there's so many stories out there, and what we wanted to do was try to find a way to kind of weave these stories together to tell not the whole picture, but a cohesive fragment of the larger picture. Of course, there is a thread of a speculative narrative in there, but the character Nguyet is based on many people. After the end of the war in 1975, a lot of people went out and searched for unexploded ordnance to sell as scrap metal to make a living. There were a lot of accidents that came out of this this process. The location in which Nguyet's house is situated in the film is actually the house of a woman named Nguyet and her husband Phi, who run a scrapyard who sell bomb metal as scrap metal.
Okay, so there's really a kind of mirroring between the film and reality at certain points.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, this idea of reflection is actually quite interesting to me, and we can talk about that later. But and then we met Ho Van Lai in one of our first trips in to Quang Tri in 2020, and was very much moved by his story and his energy and his thoughtfulness, and so all these different elements came together somehow into this 60-minute kind of vignette, as you said, of a short time in the life of a place, namely Quang Tri.
Thank you. I mean, it's so interesting because, throughout the duration of the film, we're immersed in Quang Tri, but it feels like, the meetings and encounters that Nhiet has, are seemingly almost archetypal, almost like we're in an allegorical space or in a parable. And so I'm reminded a little bit of, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, where the encounters are in and of themselves, teachings. And was this something that came to mind, like when you were building the film, or what was that kind of central axis around which you were building this narrative?
This idea of a hero's journey is always a kind of fascinating idea to me. It's this kind of way of understanding and telling story that has become so much a part of how we understand narrative and how we understand the world. How do we take this hero character on a journey without leaving Quang Tri? That was the idea. And so it all has to unfold through the conversations she has, and through the kind of engagements and kind of meetings that she has after she finds this, you know, old ragged magazine that has a little article on Alexander Calder. It just kind of propels her onto this kind of journey of trying to understand why she's doing what she's doing. Why is she an artist, essentially?
And is that also a question that mirrors into your own thinking sometimes? I mean, just curious.
I think so. I think, you know, everybody who is an artist is always thinking about why are we making the things that we're making. I think that just goes part and parcel with the career choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the setting of the film, you know, now we've kind of begun to talk about Quang Tri as such a kind of key, almost character, right, in the way that the story is told. But because, you know, the film has such a allegorical quality, and this is partly to do with, you know, the way that the soundtrack has been composed, and the way that the characters, you know, move through the space. I wondered if we could invite Ho Van Lai to describe actually, you know, Quang Tri from his personal experience, you know, to hear also a different kind of view or framework for looking at this place.
So I'll be half translating and half sharing today for anh Lai. Anh Lai ơi, Jia Yun hỏi anh á là anh có thể chia sẻ về cái trải nghiệm của anh ở Quảng Trị, ở cái vùng đất Quảng Trị. Dạ, vậy thôi.
Vâng, xin chào tất cả quý khán giả. Tôi tên là Hồ Văn Lai. Tôi sinh ra và lớn lên tại miền đất Quảng Trị. Tôi rất quen thuộc với địa danh này.
Chắc là em dịch từ từ ha. Hi everyone, I'm Ho Van Lai. I was born in Quảng Trị and I'm very familiar with this place.
Quảng Trị thì có nhiều điểm du lịch nổi tiếng. Như là thành cổ Quảng Trị, cầu Hiền Lương sông Bến Hải.
There are many famous historical sites as well as touristy sites in Quảng Trị, like the Hiền Lương Bridge or the ancient fort of Quảng Trị. Yeah.
Địa đạo Vĩnh Mốc và Thánh địa La Vang.
Vĩnh Mốc Tunnel or Thánh địa, I'm not sure what Thánh địa is, just like a sacred site of La Vang.
Ẩm thực của Quảng Trị bao gồm các món như là bún hến, mái xã.
The food of Quảng Trị is bún hến, it's like noodles with clams and.
Bún hến, mái xã.
Oh yeah, mai xã, noodles and clams.
Love that.
Yeah.
Và bún nghệ, cháo cá và bánh bột lọc.
And then we have cumin noodle with fish and steamed rice cake.
Okay, that's so good.
Vietnamese people love food. Okay.
No, right to the point.
Yeah.
Vâng, người dân Quảng Trị, phẩm chất của người dân Quảng Trị thì rất là kiên cường và bất khuất, hiếu học.
The people of Quảng Trị is really resilient, and they are good at studying. Yeah.
Sống lạc quan yêu đời, cần cù chăm chỉ và sống rất là tình cảm.
Yeah. They are positive about life, and they are full of emotions. They are also sensitive, and
sống rất tình cảm, nghe năng tin sâu.
yeah. So they they have a big heart.
Vâng, tôi cũng biết là rất nhiều vùng đất tại tỉnh Quảng Trị đang bị ô nhiễm bom mìn.
I'm also aware that the soil of Quảng Trị is heavily polluted by UXO.
Rất nhiều người dân Quảng Trị đã bị thương tật do các vụ nổ bom mìn gây ra.
And so many people in Quảng Trị was hurt by UXO.
Trong vụ nổ bom mìn của tôi thì đã có 2 người bạn của tôi là bị tử vong và còn tôi thì bị khuyết tật đến 90%.
So with my past accidents, there are also 2 other friends of mine that that passed away, and me myself, I have 90% injury.
Renew và các cái tổ chức hoạt động rà phá bom mìn khác đang đẩy mạnh các cái hoạt động rà phá bom mìn, giúp Quảng Trị không còn mối đe dọa về bom mìn.
So in the land of Quảng Trị, there are NGOs like Renew, the project that Lai is a part of, who are trying to demine and clear the land of UXO.
Đã có rất nhiều ngôi làng và trường học, bệnh viện đã được mọc lên từ những vùng đất trước đây là bị ô nhiễm bom mìn, nhưng giờ đây không còn nữa.
Yeah, many villages and schools and hospital were raised up on the pieces of land that were once unusable because of UXO.
Đó là những trải nghiệm của tôi về địa phương tôi đã sống. Thank you.
So that's how I live my life in Quảng Trị. That's the land that I know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lai, for sharing and also giving so much color, I think, to the city where the film takes place. And I think he touched on, a key part of how Quang Tri is foregrounded in the film, which is to really say that there's a certain kind of proximity to danger that's embedded in the everyday existence in the city. So I wanted to pose this question to Tuan and Nghĩa about your experience, venturing to Quang Tri and being much closer, to these objects, which are actually maybe at times unpredictable or having to be dealt with through really kind of expert and careful means, as is, seen on screen here. What was that experience like, and what was the process like? Yeah.
Okay. So we actually had a chance to go to a demining site to work with a demining team from MAC and
The Mines Advisory Group.
Yeah. The Mine Advisory Group and Peace Trees as well, and seeing how they are coordinated and how they work in a very strict fashion, and how they take their work seriously. Everything must be followed with precision, and we just kind of feel a certain seriousness in the atmosphere whenever they are approaching these UXOs, and when we see we're getting quite familiar with bombs and explosion on screen in the cinema and action movies, that we tend to take them lightly. But when we were there closer to them and actually feels the vibration, is even though we're like far away, we're behind a bunker, it just feels so visceral when the bomb goes off, and you can just feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's a scary experience. So I can only imagine how it feels like for UXO victims or UXO survivor, such as Lai, to be in so close to, just a close distance and experience all that. It's just, it's unimaginable. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain kind of magnitude, right?
Yeah.
That maybe is the cinema kind of creates always like a very comfortable buffer
Yeah.
for understanding that.
Yeah.
And how about you, Tuan? How did it shape, I think, your film? I mean, even the earlier film as well. The Sounds of Cannons, familiar like sad refrains, made in 2021. Yeah.
My very first trip to Guangzhou with XP, I couldn't help but notice, we weren't even in the field yet, we were still in the city center, and we would hear every maybe 30 minutes an explosion in the distance. Like a significant explosion in the distance.
These are like coordinated
detonations. Sometimes the demining crews cannot get things out of where they found them. And sometimes, like cluster munitions, it's best and safest to detonate them on the spot because you can't transport cluster munitions. So we hear these explosions every 15, 20, 30 minutes, and it happens throughout the day. Every day, day in and day out.
Is this in the country or also in the city? I mean,
this is when we're in the city, we can hear the explosions happening around on the outskirts of the city.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just it goes to show how much of it is still there, how much of the land is still contaminated. There are three main NGOs doing demining work. There's Mines Advisory Group, there's Peace Trees, and Project Renew. Mm-hmm. Each one of these organizations has hundreds of people working. Each crew is made up of like 7 to 10 people, and they're out there every day, day in and day out, just doing this work, and it's endless. It's endless. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that kind of has really, made that stuck with me in working with this community. It's just endless. Mm.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I think in the film, there's this kind of banal quality to Nghĩa and how she's treating the bombs. It's become kind of a quotidian experience for her, and that contrasts with how lethal these materials are or were. I think really sets up the film for a very kind of specific kind of psychological space, which maybe is also drawn from Guangzhou. Yeah. Okay, my comment.
Yeah, no. There are many people. I mean, you go to Guangzhou and you see ordnance everywhere.
Okay.
You walk into a cafe and you see, a ballistic shell like on the shelf as the decoration. You go walk down the village and someone might have a bombshell mm-hmm. as a flower pot. Mm-hmm. Someone might have another kind of M117, propping up a car or something. So they're everywhere. There is a kind of ironic banality of it because of its surplus.
Okay.
It's ubiquitous.
Completely. Yeah. But very specific to Guangzhou and the surrounding cities?
And the surrounding region.
Okay.
Yeah. All over the central region, people kind of mm-hmm. deal and engage with this material all day, every day.
Mm-hmm. And
so it has to become kind of quotidian in on one side, it has to, because you're confronted with it, and it's been like that for the last 50 years, and I think that's, and I talk about this a lot, but the irony of peacetime in Vietnam, right? We just celebrated the 50th year anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. The irony is that more civilians, mostly farmers and children, have died in during peacetime because of UXO than the number of active duty military personnel from the American side during war. We were talking to Hovan Lai this morning, and in my mind, I was thinking, okay, maybe 50,000 civilians have died because of UXO. He was telling me that over 140,000 people have died or been injured because of UXO.
In the last 5 decades.
During peacetime.
Okay.
That's the cruel irony that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's incredibly hard to process, and it's also something that doesn't appear in, I think, the frontline or headline consciousness around the world. This kind of continued reverberation of conflict through a community, and I think that's why the film is also very important in demonstrating that resilience and resourcefulness, in spite of that kind of a very kind of hazardous quality of the landscape, I think. And Nghĩa, would you say that this posed any kind of production challenges? The sheer abundance of this material, or this auditory soundscape that is kind of constantly going on in the background?
For this particular film,
Yeah.
Not really. We didn't have a lot of difficulties dealing with danger for this film because we mostly chooses to go with the safer option, the ones the shells that have been deactivated or gutted out, so it's perfectly safe. The only difficulty I would say is just that carrying them around to the set, or because too heavy.
Okay.
Too heavy.
It's not like a Iron Man challenge or something.
No, it's not. You require like a whole team to actually carry them to the set. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bells that form part of Temple are also like about 100 kilos each.
Yeah.
And that's without the explosive component, right? So normally it'd be about 200 plus kilos.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that actually segues really beautifully into the next question to Tuan as well, which is to do with, UXO as a material, and how you kind of came to first use this material and what it kind of is like, to handle as a material, like, is it a very kind of impure mix? Do you need to, what's that process, that very material process that goes into making your mobiles that are shown here, and also, the bells upstairs?
We fiddled with the material for quite a long time to kind of figure out what we could do with it. We wanted to make sound objects out of them. We wanted them to be transformed from this material that was, designed for a certain purpose, and kind of transform them into a completely opposite purpose. It was very difficult because, this material designed by the U.S. military, it's rigid. It's meant to kind of break and become shrapnel, and we couldn't get a kind of resonance out of the first kind of batch of casts that we made. And then we started having to mix it with stainless steel, which gave it a little bit more flexibility and resonance, and also kept it from rusting. XP and I just, there are some photos of us like scraping TNT. This is unsafe, and I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but we were like scraping like leftover TNT out of like an M117, and then grinding the inside to kind of tune them, to get them to a kind of to have resonance and vibration. XP has now become an expert bomb tuner. So if anybody needs an expert bomb tuner, please contact XP. But it's been years, and it's been a learning experience, such a learning experience. And Yeah, and the other thing that we've learned to do is use this idea of balance as a kind of material, as a kind of medium, like to balance a mobile like this. It's no easy task. You know, it actually takes a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of calculation to it. Plus, on top of that, because of the frequencies of each bell, like in this work, we have to consider the weight.
Okay.
Because, you know, the thickness of the plate bells will determine the frequency at which it resonates at. So we have to consider that in the overall calculation to give it a certain kind of form using weight and balance.
Mm-hmm.
So the process really becomes like thinking about balance. Actually, it's become a quite beautiful process for us actually, and very meditative.
Mm-hmm.
To find balance in the work. No pun intended.
I mean, I think it's also, yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a technical process, right? In terms of locating and then being able to maybe go back to the same, for example, like alloy of stainless steel and UXO. So has that also become kind of almost like there's a kind of a system or a sequence that you guys have arrived at over time? I mean, I'm just curious, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's various sound elements that come from this whole, you know, variety of metals
Mm-hmm.
that are used to make weapons. There's the brass
Mm-hmm.
that come from the artillery shells.
Yep.
And there's been a whole tradition of gong makers in Vietnam who only use brass from artillery shells.
Oh.
And there's a preference between Russian artillery shells versus American artillery shells because they have different resonances.
Okay.
They'll give you a different sound. So the gong upstairs is made from American brass artillery shells.
Okay.
That are cut, pounded, braced together, and then formed into a gong, a traditional Vietnamese gong. Yeah, all of this is very, very, very interesting, and you can kind of nerd out on the whole thing. But there's so much variety.
And there's a kind of a technology that emerges around this kind of so-called scrap metal then. That's kind of come up in Vietnam, I guess, over the last few decades.
A technology?
Yeah. I mean, like in order to use, you know, like you were mentioning about making certain bells or a certain kind of preference for a certain type of artillery, you know, and who holds this knowledge then, actually?
You know, there are different villages that we work with in the north that have, you know, like a long-standing tradition of working with brass, making brass trays and carvings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, they've been using brass artillery shells from the French, you know, like, and then probably before that, there's, you know, but, you know, Vietnam also has a tradition of like the famous bronze drums from that they date back to like 8 BC or something before. Yeah. So it's a kind of merging between tradition and like using materials that have been brought to oppress, right? And that I find that fascinating.
Yeah, and you've also combined, I think, you know, kind of works or almost like references from different points in history. You know, for example, the work on the right, you know, unexploded resonance, where you combine the M117 bomb with an antique wooden frame. I mean, where is that from? I mean, just to understand.
The antique wooden frame is from Hue, from where my collaborator XP is from. He has a lot of knowledge in making these old antique houses. They're called Nhà Rường. It's a traditional kind of architecture form that's embellished with intricate carving. And, you know, a lot of these old architectural structures are now being taken down. So, you know, we find those and we reuse those as well. So it's a culmination of reusing different materials historically. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that leads me to the next question, which has been on my mind, I think, after we've installed this work, on the roof. And also, I think, paying attention to the materiality of the bombs. I think there's such a, the notion of the relic, I think, really comes to mind. I mean, these things are not very old. They're only 5 decades old, but they've been weathered into something that looks incredibly archaic to my mind. And I think in one of your old interviews, you talked about memory as a relic as well. And I wanted to invite you to speak about the relic as a concept or a kind of fulcrum for your practice of object making, which also recurs and is a thread in the film. Yeah.
I think relics, when we think about relics as a material thing, like an object, relics are objects that connect us to memory. In other words, relics are objects that connect us to a story, to a narrative. I think artists aspire to making relics.
Really?
I think object makers. That's what we aspire to, or at least me. I believe that. So I grew up with grandmothers that were very animist. Everything had a soul.
Yeah.
Which is actually very fascinating. When you start to kind of think about this idea of a relic, because souls have memory. Souls have memory, and if the relic could tell you a story, it would connect you to a memory. And I think that's where I kind of enter and approach object making. Objects at a given moment in their lives will be charged with some sort of memory, like these objects here. And how do we kind of engage that object in attempting to tell us their story? And I think that, for me, is this play between, refuse and relic. And that's the kind of space in which I like to operate in terms of my material making, object making practice. Okay.
So what kind
does that answer you?
Yeah, it's then we're on the same page. Okay. Correct. No, just and I think it totally. I feel as if there's a kind of a preoccupation with the status of the object as something that's embedded in time, or referring to its timeliness, which I think continues and has a very strong presence when you physically see Temple, for example, upstairs, or any of these works.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we went to the Museum of Asian Civilizations a couple days back. Thank you for taking me. But our whole kind of history and our understanding of who we were and what we have become lays in the object. I mean, that's why museums are so obsessed with collecting these objects. They somehow hold the key to unlocking our story, our memory of thousands and thousands of years. And I think that also kind of makes its way into how we think about objects, right? As a society.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a memory kind of portal, actually. The object as a portal, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of portals, I mean, I wanted to then turn to Nghĩa, in terms of, your background in writing for Vietcetera, right? And then subsequently, moving into filmmaking and thinking about the mechanisms of truth, history and fiction. What's that been like for you?
Um, I was a journalist, but a journalist that covers arts and films. So I think truth has never been much of a priority to me. Uh, I'm more interested in actually how people see the truth. And before I met Anton, I talked to him. Actually, I was interviewing him about one of his work called "The Sounds of Canon Sounds," like sad refrains. And there's this part that he told me about, kind of like the truth that kind of stick with me until today. He told me that when he was filming the bomb and the demining team, one of the team members told him that it was rumored that American soldiers that were against the war in Vietnam would deliberately deactivate the fuse of the bomb before it got dropped onto the lands of Vietnam. And I asked him, like, how do you know that's true? You can't, yeah. And he said that it doesn't matter if that's true or not. It matters that, it's a good story. Isn't that a powerful story?
Did I say that?
You said a lot of things, so probably don't remember that. But yeah, you said that. Yeah. So truth is very objective, I think, because how would you say, like, oral history is part of Tuan's interest, and that's how I get to use to this term. And the story of people that went through things, you can't say that wasn't the truth. So it's just offers a lot of different perspective on how you see things, other than what is reported as the truth. Yeah.
And did you want to share more about shooting this particular scene?
Oh yeah. So with the picture on the left, we were shooting with the main actress sitting on the Hinh Lung Bridge, and particularly on the DMZ lines that once separated the north and the south of Vietnam. It's quite an interesting idea how Dong chooses her to wanted her to sit right on that spot when she was making kind of like a decision to either to continue with her life, not believing in spiritualism, not believing in ghosts, reincarnation, or right now it seems like the only logically way to find out about what she's going through is to go to a master or
Spiritual medium?
yeah, spiritual medium. Do we go that way or do we go the other way?
Yeah, I think it's also a very interesting kind of detail to mention to audiences who don't know about the Hinh Lung Bridge. There's a white line painted on the bridge, and this is where the DMZ crossed.
Oh.
Right on the bridge. So, at certain times of the day, soldiers from the north would go and try to repaint the bridge on their side and maybe like move the line a little bit. Then at night, or on another day, the soldiers from the south would kind of repaint the bridge on their side and kind of, but as an object also, as an object that's part of this landscape that's on the water, it becomes this site, this site of separation that we found really interesting. This kind of demarcation, this like in between space,
like a paint battle. Like they would just keep like painting back and forth. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
So there's that thing about the speaker as well. So speaker would go from the south to the north, saying
they would set up large speakers on the southern side, blurring southern propaganda, and then on the northern side they would have big speakers blaring northern propaganda to the south.
So the bigger as big you can get. Yeah. So for the photos on the right side, it's just a cool set. It's such a cool set because we were looking for like a set that fits this scene of the spiritual medium, and we found this old cafe shop which was decorated with bombshells and everything, and the lighting was cool. So it just shows that we got quite some amazing talents on the crew.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that a lot of the cast is from Quang Tri.
Yeah, from Quảng Trị. Yeah, most of them are from Quảng Trị. They are not professional actors or actresses, but they did amazing. Yeah.
Lai was telling us hôm qua Lai có kể cho anh với lại Nghĩa nghe là khi mà em cho mọi người trong gia đình xem phim á, mọi người hết hồn kêu ủa sao Lai đóng hay vậy? He was telling us how when we finally sent him the film and he was showing his family and friends in his part of town, they were like, wow, Lai, you are like really professional. And I just wanted to kind of note that because Lai did an amazing job in the film.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
a lot of talent in Quang Tri. Yeah, speaking of filming and the process of collaboration, I mean, what was this process also like? And I think you guys also had a lot to say about this particular set or location, which has an incredible history.
Lai nhớ cái địa điểm này không Lai? Lai kể sơ về cái địa điểm giếng cổ.
Có nhớ.
Lai kể về cái hôm mà mình quay cái scene này đi. Và kể sơ về giếng cổ, lịch sử của giếng cổ đó.
Vâng, giếng cổ này là nó nằm tại xã Gio, tỉnh Quảng Trị.
So this ancient well is from an area called Gio An in Quảng Trị.
Cái giếng cổ này là không bao giờ hết nước. Nó chảy quanh năm suốt tháng và nó đã chảy trong một thời gian dài rồi, như gần mấy trăm năm nay rồi.
So the ancient wells, it never runs out of water. It just keeps flowing water for over like a few hundred years now.
Đây là một cái giếng rất là liêng thiêng đối với người dân của xã Gio.
It's a sacred ancient well and it's an important mark for the people of Gio An.
Đó là một cái biểu tượng tinh thần luôn sống mãi để là một cái chỗ dựa cho mọi người dân ở xã Gio là có tinh thần hiếu học vươn lên để xây dựng đất nước.
It's kind of like a very healing and pillar place for the people of Gio An. So whenever they look at the ancient well, they visit the ancient well, they find strength to keep moving.
Và nó là một cái biểu tượng để cho mỗi con người Việt Nam chúng tôi là dù ở bất cứ nơi nào cũng hướng về quê hương, vì ở đó có là mái đình rồi cây đá giếng cổ.
Yeah, it's just a symbol a symbol for the Vietnamese people to look to and to be reminded of our ties and bond to the land.
Tôi đến Giếng Cổ khi tham gia động phim mà là vào tháng 12 gần Tết, là lúc đó là cái cảnh vật ở xung quanh Giếng Cổ rất là đẹp.
Yeah, so when we shot this film and I get to visit the ancient well, it was almost springtime, so the greeneries and the plants and everything and the air, the sky, it looks very beautiful, ethereal.
Rất nhiều người dân tỉnh Quảng Trị là đến thăm địa điểm này và đã có những cái bức ảnh rất là đẹp để đem về giới thiệu với những người thân ở gia đình.
Yeah, then the people of Quảng Trị from other areas would go here and like take photos to show their relatives.
Vâng, đó là tất cả những gì tôi biết về Giếng Cổ Gioan.
Yeah, that's all I know about the ancient well. Yeah.
Thank you. And also, was it the first time he was visiting for this film production?
Yeah, that was his first time. Also, some interesting facts about, not facts, just interesting story about this well. They say that the water here has healing quality, that you can just, and it's actually very clear water. Mm-hmm. You can look down to the bottom, and yeah. And when we were shooting this film, it's quite a challenge for Lai as well, because all the rocks down there is like all mossy, and it's very hard to even like walk on it. But then he managed to, stand in the middle, and we got our team with him all the time to make sure that everything's in place, and that's a very cool shot as well.
Mm-hmm. Was it like a challenge to kind of storyboard the film, or was Quang Tri also kind of really the canvas or the kind of almost source book for so much of the film's kind of almost like architectural, but also land, I guess the context of the landscape itself? I mean, what was that process like of, scouting and finding? I'm sure there was a lot of conversation with the local community as well.
We knew there were some locations that we wanted to film certain scenes in. Like I had mentioned before, the house in which a lot of the film takes place is actually the house of An Phi and Ji Nguyet, who do this kind of work, run a scrapyard. We also, were kind of advised by friends from Quang Tri as to where we should shoot. And so anytime I hear people suggest things, I think I just take the suggestion, because they know more than I do where to film and what scenes would kind of bring more meaning to the film for them. And I think that's always appreciated, because, the filmmaking process is such a collaborative process. And we try to open it up as much as possible for everybody to kind of have input in the film. And that's a really kind of important aspect of this practice, when we do works like this with communities like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys also decided to include the school that Lai teaches at in the film. Which was wonderful, because again, I think this kind of gesture of mirroring, I think, resurfaces. But Nguyet is the one who, I think, gains a lot of a slow kind of insight, I think, through her recurring interactions with Lai. And so with that, I really wanted to invite Lai to share more about his current work in Quang Tri and what he does on a day-to-day basis, and how it engages with the landscape and community.
Anh Lai, anh có thể chia sẻ thêm về công việc của anh hiện tại ở Quảng Trị, nghĩa là hàng ngày thì nó như thế nào và nó ảnh hưởng như thế nào đến vùng đất Quảng Trị cũng như là cộng đồng ở đây?
Vâng. Kính thưa quý vị khán giả, là vào năm 2015 tôi đã trở thành thành viên của chương trình giáo dục phòng tránh bom mìn và vật nổ của dự án Renew.
In 2015, I became part of a Project Renew program about UXO education.
Chương trình này là được tài trợ từ chính phủ Ireland thông qua đại sứ Ireland tại Việt Nam.
The program was sponsored by the Irish government.
Dự án Renew là một cái sáng kiến giữa tỉnh Quảng Trị và tổ chức Hội tưởng niệm cựu chiến binh Hoa Kỳ tại Việt Nam.
Project Renew is an initiative between Quảng Trị and the war veteran of the U.S. soldier back in the U.S. war.
Với sứ mệnh là phục hồi môi trường và khắc phục hậu quả chiến tranh tại Việt Nam.
And our mission is to clean up the environment and deal with the consequences of war in Vietnam.
Dự án Renew là một cái mô hình liên kết các cái hoạt động bao gồm là hoạt động rà phá bom mìn, giáo dục phòng tránh tai nạn bom mìn và hỗ trợ nạn nhân bom mìn.
So we do demining works, education, cái cuối là gì em?
Hỗ trợ nạn nhân bom mìn.
And support of UXO survivors.
Bản thân tôi với tư cách là một nhà giáo dục phòng tránh bom mìn, tôi đã tiến hành rất nhiều buổi tuyên truyền phòng tránh bom mìn cho học sinh tại trung tâm trưng bày hoạt động khắc phục hậu quả bom mìn của dự án Renew.
Me as an UXO educator, we have conducted a lot of session with school children as part of the program.
Ngoài ra tôi còn đến các cái cộng đồng trong tỉnh để là giáo dục phòng tránh bom mìn cho các em học sinh và người dân ở đó.
I also go to other areas all over and teach kids and even like farmers, adults about the dangers of UXO.
Với mục đích là đem lại cái cuộc sống hòa bình, yên vui cho người dân trước hiểm họa của bom mìn và vật nổ.
With the hope to bring peace and safety to the life of local communities.
Trong quá trình làm việc thì tôi đã tiếp xúc với nhiều người dân, nhiều giáo viên và nhiều em học sinh.
I've had a chance to connect to a lot of many locals and students and teachers as well. Yeah.
Tôi đã nhận được rất là nhiều sự quan tâm từ họ.
And I gained a lot of attention from them.
Tôi thấy mình sống hòa nhập với cộng đồng và sống có ích cho xã hội hơn.
I feel very much integrated and helpful to society.
Tôi thấy tôi đã thực hiện được các cái quyền và nghĩa vụ của người khuyết tật.
I feel like I have fulfilled all the rights and duty of a person with disabilities.
Đó là một điều hạnh phúc và vui vẻ đối với những người khuyết tật như chúng tôi khi được làm những công việc, khi được tham gia bình đẳng vào các hoạt động xã hội giống như người bình thường.
for people with disabilities like us is a great source of happiness to be able to contribute and to be equally joining all the activities and daily life activities as everybody else.
Vâng, đó là công việc của tôi thường ngày. Xin cảm ơn.
That's what I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lai and Nghĩa, also for translating his incredible and sustained contributions to Quang Tri and the wider community. And, you know, the film that we just watched actually ends, right, with Lai singing of folklore, which brings us back to thinking about music, you know, sound, and the capacity for these mechanisms for healing. And could we invite Lai to share more about, you know, the song at the end and what it means to him personally, and whether he sees music as a form of remembrance or healing, or perhaps a bit of both.
Anh Lai có thể chia sẻ về cái bài hát mà anh hát ở cuối phim, nó có ý nghĩa như thế nào với anh, và anh có nghĩ là âm nhạc nó là một phần, nó là một cách để mình tưởng niệm hay là mình tự chữa lành mình hay không?
Vâng, bài hát này có tên là Hẹn về Quảng Trị. Và để chia sẻ bài hát này thì tôi có thể trình bày ca khúc này được không ạ?
The song was called See You Again in Quảng Trị, and I want to sing it for you if you would like that.
Yes.
Hẹn một mai tôi về thăm Quảng Trị, thăm dòng sông, thăm lũy tre làng, thăm mảnh đất một thời nuôi tôi lớn. Thuở ấu thơ hôm sớm vẫn đi về. Quảng Trị ơi, mới vừa xa mà lòng nhớ khôn nguôi. Làm sao quên những ngày đông tháng hạ, làm sao quên chiều đông hà cam lộ. Bên hải buồn hoang vắng bãi bồi xa, làm sao quên đất hải lặng con đê nằm ngăn nước. Bên cây giá đò ván màn trơ mòn. Và nhớ mối tình xưa thuở yêu đâu lưu luyến. Mộng chưa thành khi con nước trẻ chia hai. Thật Hạn ơi, buồn khơi sông Vĩnh Đình. Người thương tôi, em biển biết nơi mô. Quảng Trị ơi, Quảng Trị ơi, hỡi ai từng đi biết mới hay lòng da diết nỗi hoài mong. Chứ trong tôi quê hương ngàn ước vọng, hẹn một mai con nước sẽ xuôi dòng. Vâng, bài hát này rất là có ý nghĩa đối với tôi.
The song is very meaningful to me.
Quê hương Quảng Trị là một chùm khế ngọt.
The hometown of Quảng Trị is like a sweet star fruit. That's how we say it in Vietnamese.
Là một chỗ dựa tinh thần vững chắc để cho chúng tôi học tập và xây dựng phát triển kinh tế đất nước.
Quảng Trị is a pillar to us, so we can forward ourselves and trying to build our country.
Và cho dù ở bất kỳ nơi đâu thì mỗi người dân Quảng Trị đều hướng về quê hương.
And no matter where we are, we always our heart always stays with Quảng Trị.
Và với một tình yêu sâu sắc,
With a deep love and a deep compassion for the land.
xây dựng Quảng Trị thành một tỉnh là phát triển và người dân hạnh phúc, sống hạnh phúc.
And we want to build Quảng Trị and make it a happy place for the people.
Vâng. Còn theo tôi nghĩ đối với bản thân tôi là âm nhạc là một cách để mà chữa lành tâm hồn con người.
Me personally I think that music is how to heal the soul.
Bản thân tôi rất là thích ca hát.
And I really like singing.
Một khi dòng ca của tôi cất lên thì tôi thấy tâm trạng của tôi rất là vui vẻ và tôi thấy yêu đời, yêu cuộc sống.
Whenever I sing, I feel like I'm happier and I love life more.
Mọi bệnh tật trên cơ thể của tôi, những nỗi phiền muộn trong lòng của tôi đều được cột rửa và tâm hồn của tôi được bình ổn trở lại.
All my injuries, either physically or mentally, got cleaned up, and I feel light and calm.
Ngoài ra, bài hát thì nó cũng giúp chúng ta là nhớ về quê hương, đất nước.
The songs reminds us to think and love the land that we are at.
Bởi vì ở đó có những hình ảnh như là dòng sông, bến đò, lũy tre làng và tuổi học trò.
With images of rivers and bamboos and bến đò. I'm not sure what that is. Just a place that you park your ships. Docks, yes.
Nó làm động lực cho chúng tôi càng trở nên mạnh mẽ và để vươn xa hơn tới tương lai.
It's a motivation for us to be strong and move forward the future.
Vâng, đó là tất cả những gì tôi muốn nói.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Lai, and also Tuan and Nghĩa for sharing. Now we'd like to actually open the conversation to the floor. If anyone might have questions for any of the panelists. Oh, right in the middle.
While we're waiting for the microphone, I just want to say thank you, Jia Yun and NGS again, and also thank you to Rose for organizing and bringing Lai here. And it's been amazing to have our collaborator, someone we kind of hold so dear to our heart, to get to kind of come and talk to us with us about this project. We haven't had this opportunity before.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Shout out to
you.
Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Shout out,
Rose.
Rose.
Hi, I actually have a question about why the ordinances are only concentrated. You said that a lot of them are concentrated around central Vietnam. Why is that so? Is it because most of the battles and most of the bombings happened there because of the DMZ?
Yeah, that's a main part of it. So we have historically Quảng Trị is the land that the battle of the ancient fort took place in
72?
72. Yes, in 72, and basically both sides are trying to take that ancient fort with everything that they've got, and the North was trying to preserve that fort, and while U.S.-backed South was trying to take that position within 2 weeks, but the North side kept it longer, for like 2 months, and the U.S.-backed South really try to use everything that they've got to take that tiny piece of land, and yeah, DMZ.
Thank you. I'd just like to share an adjacent story, and it connects Singapore to Quang Tri. I'm not sure if you are all familiar with this story. There are actually two Singaporeans, photographers, and they were ABC news cameramen. They are called Sam Kai Fei, and the other one is Terry Koo. They both died in the Battle of Quang Tri in 20th July 1972. My voice trembles because I've been researching this a lot, and I think they've forgotten here in Singapore. And I think this film actually brought me back to all that research that I've done about Terry Koo and Sam Kai Fei, and it's a tiny piece of Singapore in Quang Tri.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sorry, they died there, and they were their bodies were repatriated to Singapore by members of the family who went to Quang Tri during the war, and that was exactly when the second battle of Quang Tri took place, which is the one you described.
Yeah.
So there's a very strange connection with Singapore today, and it's not really what you call serendipity because it's not happy, but it's a very strange connection which I think needed to be made. And that was my wife speaking, so if I may add something, I'm a filmmaker myself. I just wanted to say to Tuan and Nghĩa and Lai that, wow, the movie is just amazing. I'm
Thank you.
more than impressed.
Thank you.
One more question, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank you all for bringing such a powerful film to us. It's powerful in also such a delicate way. And I think the really strong theme throughout the entire film was the idea of trauma. And I think when we are thinking about trauma, there's also the question of blame. And I think it's less prevalent in this film. And I'm just wondering, from the production team's point of view, also the artistic point of view, how do you approach the subject of blame in this theme of trauma?
Wow, that's a hard question to answer. I think, the general sentiment of if I could be a representative of the people of Vietnam, which I don't claim to be, but from my experience, from my understanding, from having numerous conversations and engagements with various people from the north to the center to the south to the Vietnamese diaspora spread around the world, it was a very complicated moment, as all wars are. The general sentiment is that forgiveness is key. I think most people who we talk to, and I've met a lot of American U.S. veterans who continually tell me that, upon their return to Vietnam decades after their involvement in the war, they've only been met with open arms. And I think, I'm not sure where that comes from, this kind of endless kind of forgiveness of what happened. but I do acknowledge that it is something that many people have touched upon. We, as filmmakers and as artists, we understand the complexities of this war in particular. There are many sides. There are many people who were affected. You know, when innocent civilians are affected, it's heart-wrenching, and we've been seeing, you know, things similar happen again and again. We did not want to look at the past so much. We wanted the film to be a contemporary film. We wanted the film to be about today, and we wanted to be about this very community. So it didn't kind of really dawn on us to think about blaming any one side. If anything, like, all sides are to be blamed. After all, it was, yeah, it was a war in which many sides were involved. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. It's a very, thank you for the question. It's a complicated question to answer in a few minutes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Well, I think with that, I'd like to thank everyone again for making time on a precious Sunday afternoon to join us. And especially I'd like to thank Tuan, Nghĩa, and Lai, and of course Tuan's team for your generous sharing, you know, for spending your afternoon with us. And before we wrap up, would appreciate it if you could take a minute to fill out our feedback forms. Your thoughts are invaluable in helping us improve our programs. And if you haven't seen it already, our temple is open as of today to the public. If you'd like to visit and interact with the instruments, please head on up to the Ingting Phong Roof Garden Gallery on level 5. And wishing everyone a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Jia Yun.
Thank you, Jia Yun. Thank you, everyone.